to you now. I have 3 password variations that I always use.
Yeah, who knew that the SEO Tool Lab password was just password?
Yes.
Admin password.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I always use.
Password.
My dad could never figure out why 1122 was a bad password. Like, logins stopped letting him do it. He's like, I can't remember anything else.
Or QWERTY.
Yeah.
All right. Well, are we live? Are we good?
We are live.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for episode 35. I actually have it wrong on the slide here because I'm a professional, so back off. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks. The conference is coming up. It's like a little vacation for me, so I'm looking forward to it.
Your prezzo done? All ready to go?
About 50%.
That's about right.
You know me, the night before.
Yeah. I love when conference organizers are like, we need your slides in advance. It's like, you got it. Consider it done.
Yeah, and they reflect the end product so well. There's never any last minute presentation swapping.
Exactly.
All right, so today, we'll go through the boilerplate. So we launched a new version of IMG. So if you're on the desktop, there'll be a number of fixes and enhancements. And the big one being the moderators now have little sheriff badges on their image.
Oh,
and they actually have the ability to delete messages and ban users. So now they're moderators with teeth, where the past week you could have gotten away with anything, but you didn't know that. So no harm done. But we hope the moderators never need to use their power. And so far, everybody's been really cool because our community's been very friendly. But now we have a stick to wag. So if you like friendly communities, we have one. So check it out. What do you think, Kyle? Anything I missed in the update?
No. The other thing is, if you're one of the pre-launch people, there is the private chat room for the on-page course, and that should be live on desktop right now.
Yeah, and there was, probably about 10 of the people who signed up for the course who either didn't have an IMG account or they never completed their registration. So if you're missing that, please do sign up for your IMG account to get the full value of your course. And if you're having technical difficulties, contact support. So Clint, SEO this week, what can people expect?
Oh, we had Jordan Pierce and Mike Steffens on this week, and the majority of the conversation was about Google Maps. We talked verification, review stars, reviews, rankings, etc. So it was pretty good. I had a great time.
So I had a question about that. How do you find your guests for the shows?
A lot of it is networking, and then also when I'm looking at the stories and stuff, like Robbie Richards, I want to have him on. I met him through his site and reading his news, and then I bought his course, and now gonna try to get him on. Same way with kind of like how we got Ryan Stewart for Fight Club. It's the same process, really.
Can people pitch you ideas?
Yeah, I have a submit your site URL on digitalear.com. And if you have your own stories and you want them highlighted, you think they're good enough, drop them in there, and if accepted, I'll highlight them for sure. Or if you're a thought leader, or as we coined on Facebook, value pushers, #value pusher, you can reach out and we'll have a great conversation. It's always good to get third-party insights, whether you agree or disagree. It's good to have that conversation. Plus, I think it just makes a better show.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Figured we never talked about, how people can share ideas. So I'm glad we did that today. If you don't know what SEO this week is, check it out. It's a YouTube show where Clint goes over the latest search marketing news. He goes through hundreds of articles each week, and he boils them down to the 5 or 10 that appear to matter most. So with that, let's get into our content for today. It's an Ask Us Anything. So if you have questions, please put them into chat. Be sure to put some asterisks in the front so we know it's a question and not just comments and feedback. And with that, our first question came from Chris Richards. Once you get to page 1, how, in general, should you adapt your SEO strategy to get from page 1 to position 1? And this, I think, is a great question because not all SEO situations are equal. So say, for example, you're number 30, getting from number 30 to number 20, even though it's a 33% boost, it's not the same 33% boost as going from number 3 to number 2. So going from 30 to 20 is typically much easier than going from 3 to 2, even though they're the same percentage difference. And the reason that is because Google is fond of logarithmic scales. And so the people who are higher up in the results tend to have, orders of magnitude more ranking signal than the people who are much lower down. So that means you can often expect the people in the 1, 2, and 3 spots to have, at least tens of thousands of backlinks for high competition keywords. And the people down at page 30 often will have hundreds of backlinks or, nowhere near as much. They're missing zeros on that measurement. And so in general, when you're in that end game of SEO, you're typically competing in, scale. So you need more off page. You need to be tuned to a much higher degree for relevance. You're really competing toe to toe for that last mile of the contest. So guys, what do you think about that last mile of SEO?
Well, I think the first thing to think about is it's not always possible to move up. If you see this a lot, maybe in like a law space, for example, the first 3 results are Avo, Justia, and FindLaw, and there's a good chance you're just never going to move them. So take the win on page 1. I would kind of say that as a first, just take that win, and it could move. You could move up, but then to your point, Ted, that movement's going to take a long time. I'm not entirely sure though that your strategy adapts. Like, do you change what you're doing?
Well, I would. I think you brought up a very good point. The question becomes a return on investment question, which is, do you stand to make more money by switching to a different keyword versus trying to make that same keyword just a little bit higher on page 1? So if you're doing that contest where you're going from number 20 to number 9, and that's relatively easy for you to do, should you do that with lots of keywords, or should you try to go from number 9 to number 6?
So one thing you need to do is figure out your CTR by rank position. And you can do this in Search Console, download all of your non-branded, your unbranded keywords, and then you can figure out what your CTR is by rank. And you can see if it's really worthwhile to invest another $4,000 to move from 10 to 9 or 10 to 5 or whatever that might be. And you could actually then see what click gain you will get. How much more clicks will you be getting? And then if you've got a clued in idea on your ROI, your conversion points on this many clicks turns into that many conversions, then you can see if it's a worthwhile investment. So I would do that first. I'd figure out if it's even worthwhile to spend the money to do that. Are you going to get enough clicks to justify the extra expense? But after that, moving that one keyword is rarely the most beneficial thing beyond the cluster that you win. When you optimize for a primary keyword and you hit page one, you're going to drag a lot of other terms to page one with you, and some of them, and you're not really that optimized for them. Some of them, though, you might realize like, oh, that's really great. Then maybe I would start tweaking my page to add H2s that to get more cluster terms, and get a wider net. Rather than worrying about moving that one keyword up, I'd maybe worry about spreading my net wider and gaining more keywords based off of that keyword, because I think you'll end up with more traffic.
Yeah, that's a good point. So in summary to this question, we identified two things you can change in your strategy. So you could target more keywords once you get to that point. You could broaden the number of keywords you're targeting to try to rank for more. Then there's the obvious one. You could try to rank that one keyword higher. And then I'd say the fourth and final thing you could do to adapt your strategy is to create more properties on the web so you can take more of the page one slots. Don't just have one, be 3 of them instead.
If you've got the page one recipe, maybe you could do it again with a couple more sites.
Yeah. So there you really have 4 choices in your strategy once you get to page one on what you should do next. And, I would look at the numbers like Kyle suggested and see which of those 4 strategies makes the most sense and an ROI for your time and resources. All right. Clint, did you have any comments on this one, or should we go to?
I think Kyle pretty much covered it. My basic SEO strategy for everybody is on page as far as I can get, then links to the top 3, and then CTR top 3 in it. So that's how I did it.
By the way, Ted, we should probably start to rapid fire these, because I think we've got like 30 that people submitted on the form.
All right. So you won the lottery, Chris.
Just because Kyle talked so long.
Actually, Ted's picture disappeared, and I thought he was gone. I was like, oh man, I got to drag this out because I don't know what question 2 is. I don't have these slides.
All right. So what are the top 5 things to do first in an SEO campaign after you figured out what keywords to rank for? So I'll let Clint start this one.
Well, you figured out the keywords. So keywords to pages. If you don't have them, obviously make content and then optimize that content. 1, knowing your basic model on page or the outline. Apply pop, apply Cora, wait till it ranks, and then hit those links. I think that's 5.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, figure out your target page. If that page doesn't exist, you have to build it. If it does, then you have to tweak that. And then you want to get your measurements. As Clint said, the one thing I would add to what he was talking about too is that I also want to find my supporting keywords. I want to find those things that I'm going to use to create the supporting content for that page. I think a lot of people don't think about that. They think about, okay, I've got this keyword, I'm going to put this on this page, but they don't really think about strategy going forward after you've optimized that page, is that you need that supporting content coming in. So I'm also going to start looking for those supporting keywords, which aren't that main keyword, but things around that in a conversation, using like people also ask or something like that, and put those together. So that'd be one other thing I would add to what Clint mentioned.
Yeah, and I'd add to those things that if it's a new page, I would spend some serious thought on what I want or need the URL to be, because once I start submitting that page to Google for indexing, I'm going to be super strict and never change the URL again. So you got to get it right the first time. All right, next question. All right, how the F do I get past that 2-day trial period in Google? If you saw the webinar for NFG Rockstars, which a lot of people did not see, I showed a slide in there that shows that Google appears to be evaluating new websites for 1 to 2 days in search of some kind of signal. And if it doesn't pick up on that signal, your website will tank in search traffic. And if it does get that signal, I showed an example where your website just takes off and flies in Google. And so we are trying to figure out, by showing this, what is Google looking for in that 2 days? And so this question is asking about how do you get past that, because this person sees that a lot with new websites. And the truth is, we don't know. We think it might be some combination of traffic being measured through the Google Safe Browsing API, and perhaps some sort of uniqueness scoring on the content. Those would be our best guess at this point in time. It is an area that we're currently testing a lot in, though. Anything to add to that, guys?
I didn't see the webinar either. So.
Nope.
All right, I'll move on. How does Google decide on page relevance? Well, that we believe is with the TF-IDF algorithm, or an algorithm that's very similar or based on that. We do see that term frequency on the page does correlate strongly with rank position in Google. It is one of the very common correlating factors that we tend to see all the time across thousands of keywords. So in general, we believe relevance is being determined by TF-IDF. And in a nutshell, that algorithm tends to say people who use it more tend to score higher for relevance. So the question becomes, is it exact match only? Does it include LSI? Does it use the variance we see bolded in the search results? So we don't know all the answers, but it appears that those three things do tend to correlate. So that would be that answer. There's a lot of questions here, so maybe we'll address the other ones in chat if you ping us again, because we want to be fair to everyone.
Well, real quick on the how can a webmaster check, maybe a quick check is throw your URL into AdWords and see what keyword suggestions pop out. Might be a good way to do it.
Oh, yeah, that's another good idea. All right, so the last one I have is this one. Is there a difference between a link surrounded by text inside a paragraph or one link in the middle of a paragraph, like read more? So this is a contextual link. So this is in the content of a page, a link inside a paragraph in the middle versus one at the end. I don't think so, but I haven't specifically tested that. And the reason I don't think so is I did a lot of testing for links at the top of the page, links in the middle of the page, and links in the footer. And my testing showed no difference between the three, no measurable difference. But I believe, Kyle, you've done testing like that and you got a different result.
Well, if you're talking about position on page, I would err on the side of putting my most important links at the top. For this one, though, I don't know that there is really anything to text around a link. I think if you want to make it painfully obvious for Google, I would put my text in the link and do longer tail anchor text that gives that context. I don't know if Google can really figure things out that this link is related to that text. I think that's a big stretch. Perhaps possible, but I haven't seen that.
Yeah, because
I don't even use anchor text like that. That read more or click here, those generics that everyone was talking about. I don't even use them anymore. I would always default to the inside the paragraph using a related anchor text inside of that paragraph to pass that relevancy along. Unless you're doing a source, like this is a third-party site, there's a guest blog, and you want to cite your site as a source. kind of like you would do like a WebMD, for instance. If you're in health, you would cite WebMD as a source of the information that you're passing on. Then I would do it in that manner. But otherwise, I'd always put it inside the paragraph.
Yeah, and I think Kyle's SEO contest entry for rhinoplasty plano pretty much proved that Google didn't even care if the words in your paragraph were even words.
Yeah. Well, either that and combined with why, if you're going to link to your website, why would you do it with read more when you can do it with a closer related term or an exact match term?
Yeah. So now I'm going to switch it over to Kyle, who has the rest of the questions from the Google form. So he will be the question master.
Indeed. Okay. Do keyword anchors or exact anchors cause over-optimization when used as internal links? Basically, can you over-optimize your own site with your internal links? Can you?
There's been a lot of theory that they matter, like that internal and external combines to create the anchor text percentage. But I've built mass sites with exact match. Ted's gone and done footer links with exact match, and in both cases I've never seen a penalty. Algorithmically, does it screw anything up? So my custom standard practice is, if my page is about X, every page on the website that links to that page has that X as the anchor text, because I want Google to make. I'm just working twice as hard to make sure that it understands that this page on this site is the one that I want to rank for that word. So I always use exact match.
I agree with that. Like, I think there's two sides to this question. The first side, does it cause a penalty? For 17 years, I've largely focused on exact match footer links, and I've never seen that cause a penalty. And the other side of this question, is it a best practice? Is that what works the best? And that I don't know. I haven't tested it enough.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting topic, is maybe for another show, is how would you test X? You know what I mean? So in this case, how would you test internal linking? Does it matter the anchors for it?
Right on. Next question. When using tools like Pop and Quora, and you're trying to outrank directories that are hogging the top positions, how do you SEO against them? I think the question here, Ted, is do you measure what they're doing for on page and still try to emulate that, even if you're not a directory? Is kind of, I think, the base of this question.
Well, my belief, this is going to come down to your fundamental beliefs about how Google works. My fundamental belief is that, for the most part, Google is not manually curating results, meaning the algorithm is deciding. And if that's the case, then at a fundamental level, Google is just stack ranking your websites based on the factor measurements it has. It'll roll them all up into a single score, and it'll sort by that score descending. So if that's the fundamental way that Google's algorithm works, then eliminating your factor deficits should cause you to rise in the ranks. And when I was in e-commerce and I had products in our custom store competing with eBay and Amazon, I would often beat eBay and Amazon simply by reducing the factor deficits and eventually beating them in those scores. So is it possible to beat eBay, Etsy, Amazon? Well, I think lots of people do it every day. Is it easy? Not always. It changes from keyword to keyword in difficulty.
Yeah, I tend to agree. In the last algo update that we did for Pop, we handle those cases a lot better. And so I know previously Pop, you had to be very specific about what you're putting in, and I would talk about choose one-to-ones. I'm not as concerned about that anymore. I would advocate putting them all in, and then pulling out those one-to-ones as focus competitors, so you can kind of see what sites like you are doing compared to the group.
Yeah, and I think the Pop strategy of picking your competitors is an excellent way to find quick wins. I always thought that was a brilliant innovation of not just, get the top ones, but to look at your most closely suited competitors, because what that does is it tells you how you can do the best with what you have without having to compete against a directory that's going to have 40 trust signals on every page. So the thing to keep in mind there is there's no harm in looking at it both ways. I view the carefully chosen competitors as short-term strategy for quick wins, and looking at the top 3 only as your long-term goal.
Many people believe that followed links versus no follow outbound links to from your page drain the page's power or juice. Anyone have thoughts on that?
I totally believe it. I haven't tested it lately, but when I was in online retail, I had PageRank 8 websites, and when I would link to new products with site-wide footer links, I'd often put in 300 products into them. And when I reduced that down to one product, I would see that one product just skyrocket. So there's no doubt in my mind that at that point in time in Google, more links on a page diluted the effectiveness of the links.
So then kind of the part B of this is, okay, let's say that's true. Is there any difference if you follow or no follow them? Could you protect yourself from the drainage if they were all no follow, for example?
I never tested that far. So that would have to be new testing.
That would have to be new testing anyway, since Google's changed how they publicly handle. They changed what they say of how they're publicly handling no follow. So.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Now, now is apparently a very loose term over there at the Google campus.
Yeah, but I would say at one point in time that was totally true, and it may still be true today.
What tactics, strategies, qualities sets the top 1% of SEOs apart from the rest? I like this question.
Testing.
Yeah. A lack of pride, and in the sense of you can let your ideas go.
Yeah.
you can adapt. You can change.
You need to be okay with being wrong.
Yeah.
Because even if you are right today, Google can change and thus making you wrong tomorrow.
Yeah.
And about 5-6 times a year I have to go public and say, hey, that thing I said 6 months ago, it's not true. And that just comes with testing.
I think it's testing, pride, and like Kyle said, and you guys alluded to, is not having this ego, thinking that you know everything and that your way is always the right way. And the ability to network with your peers. And then finally having no fear. Even at the end of the day, you don't have anyone to talk to, you don't have any tests, then just go ahead and try it, see what happens.
A lot of people get paralyzed. They don't move, I've done everything. What have you done? Well, nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm sure they sat there and stressed about it a lot. But that didn't actually do anything to any page.
You can ask Ted, is how I started my software. Hey, I want to do this, and this, and this. And then 4 months later, I finally got around to actually hiring a developer. So, and that process lasted, a month and a half, 2 months before we found anyone. So just got to get over that. And especially with SEO, it's just so easy to get a cheap domain and go put up a site and learn about code. And then break stuff, and that's half the fun of this. If you're not breaking things, you're not having any fun. So go break some stuff. Yeah.
One other thing too, I've said this before and probably on the show, but if you were to take the top 50 things that continually ping in Quora as moving the needle, and you actually go to the websites that are doing that and figure out what those things are, and understand where that data is coming from and where those data points are, you probably become one of the top 100 SEOs in the world. Just right then and there, because you would have the knowledge, you'd understand what is typically moving the needle and what that thing is and how people are getting it on their pages. And then you can take that knowledge and rank and do very well. And that's the knowledge that we all have. And I hope the people listening are gaining. I have a lot of people that are listening have this knowledge, but that's where, like, if you were just to practically do that, you would, your SEO career would take off.
Yeah, just breaking down the factors that Ted put in there and learning what the heck.
What they mean. Like,
Exactly.
Clint, how many times I think that you and I are like, do you even know what this is? Like, I don't I've never heard of this thing. Is this a thing? But you learn it and then you know it and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. So is the classic table of contents useful for the list featured snippet, or should we build them manually? I don't even know what the classic table of contents is.
I think they mean the anchors that take you to a position on page.
Okay.
They would probably have to be full URLs if Google lets that happen. Because then the question is, does Google consider that, and will Google absolutize those anchors so that they work from the search results? And that's asking a lot of work of Google.
I've never seen a table of contents trigger the list rich snippets in the search results, though. I've seen lists do it, but not the actual table of contents. I think maybe Google's seeing those differently because they are with links and hashtags and et cetera. So,
but if you were going to test it, I'd test it with both absolute URLs as well as just the relative anchor URLs and see if you get different outcomes.
Yeah. And trade and one without URLs, see what happens. That'd be cool.
All right, keyword research question. How do you get the right keywords for an unknown topic? So I guess the idea here is that it's a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Google might not know what it is. How do you get the keywords for that?
I think you have the best answer on this one. That's what I do.
Do what Ted does.
No, do what we'll set up an ad campaign.
Together, Ted.
Set up an ad campaign and see what actually gets conversions, because you'll find out what keywords actually target customers by doing pay-per-click.
The other thing you'd get too is if you do it as a broad match, you're going to see how Google is going to work really hard to spend your money, I promise. And it's going to give you a pretty wide berth as to, like, okay, these are the possible keywords, and you would probably figure out what people are actually searching for to get to that unknown topic.
Yeah, and most of the time you don't even need to go nuts. You just set up a $10 budget and you can learn a lot.
Have you been watching my on-page course?
I started in a different place, though. Typically, if I'm going into a market I've never seen before, it's from a client, right? So a client comes to you, you're like, yeah, let's check it out. And so you ask who their competitors are, and then you start going to the websites and doing your research that way. And when you're looking at those sites over and over again, you can see keywords that are hit repetitively. Let's use a roofer, for example, just because it's one that everyone can relate to. So they see roof repair, roof installation. What's the other one? Restoration or whatever. Those are bad examples at this point, but you see those same words on all of those sites all together, and then you go set up your SCAG ad groups and try to find the converting ones for it. That's how I would approach it.
It's wonderful when the customer has that knowledge. I tend to find it's hit or miss that the customer has the knowledge.
Yeah, but it still gives you a starting point versus blindly just throwing it into AdWords and
sure.
Yeah. If they know the answers already, definitely go with that.
Everyone always hates somebody. So, who's your competitor? And it's that, it's a dickhead across the street. So I say that about Kyle all the time.
I was about to say, are you talking about me? The next part, I don't quite understand this question, but it's how do you deal with overloaded keywords? I think they mean like if you have too many keywords or too many things to deal with. So you've got a whole bunch of keywords you love, I guess. How do you handle those situations? Maybe like too many keywords to the budget that you have to create content would be my guess.
Well, the thing that scares me about those scenarios is just how strong the testing results are for keyword density. And so I would worry that if you try to target too much on a page, that you would be diluting your keyword density for all of those terms, making the whole page less competitive. Now, we don't know everything about that. So, take it with a grain of salt. I would recommend that you test that. Sometimes it's nice if you have two websites, because you could create one post that's very diverse in its keyword targeting and a competing post that's very tuned for a specific keyword, and you could let them fight it out and pick a winner. So that would be my preferred way. And that's how I always operated in e-commerce. We had 15 stores. I would take the least performing store to run experiments on. And then I'd pick a winner from the experiments and migrate it across the whole network.
As I hear that question, though, to me, it's, hey, I'm doing my keyword research and my tool gave me 8,000 keywords. Now,
yeah.
So,
now what?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe you need a way to filter those to prioritize.
Yeah. Your PPC campaigns are going to filter those pretty quickly for you. In two categories, well, really three categories. One is stupid broad, and is in my dream keywords I want to rank for. The highly converting and the quick wins. And if you sort them that way, and then you use the rest of that list to, if you're an agency, to justify your continuing services fee, or if you're doing it yourself, now you have somewhere else to go and other things to work on while you're waiting for that harder stuff to rank.
Is a GMB good for the SEO of a national brand?
That's a hot debate.
It is, right?
I'd say it's untested. There are stories that it matter, and there are claims that it doesn't move the needle. Yeah. So there might be something situational about how it's done that we don't know. We need more testing.
Yeah. The hard part is actually how do you test it? So if you follow the Jimmy Kelly, stupid smart SEO, he recommends, regardless of the site, get a GMB so you can get the machine identity going and you get the knowledge panel firing off, etc. And if you follow Bill Hartzer, he had one site where he deleted the GMB and he got a lot of improvement. So from a testing perspective, how do you do it? And then it's setting up getting a fake GMB, going through and setting up the entity stuff, and then maybe doing another site just like it and not doing it and see which one ranks higher, I guess, would probably be the simplest to do, I guess.
I ran a simple test. It's a very basic test. I created a GMB for SEO Tool Lab, and I let it sit there for 6 months, and it didn't kill my national traffic. And then when Bill Hartzer made his claims that traffic improved after removing it, I removed my GMB for SEO Tool Lab and saw no difference. So I only have one data point, and so I'm still saying it's inconclusive.
It's really hard to test, and probably that'd be like a 6-month test to like kind of like what you did and set it all up, establish all these brands, and then start deleting GMBs and see what happens.
I would like, because Bill's a smart guy. I would obviously he can't share what site it was, but I would like to look a little bit more into that one. Like, was that the only thing done?
Yeah, could it be market specific? That kind of
thing? Because I think his argument was that by having the GMB, they were only showing for local results. Was what he was saying.
And when we looked at a lot of national stores, and they all had corporate headquarters listed as GMBs. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's something about that corporate headquarters designation. But we do see national brands with GMBs.
Yeah. Should you use custom written meta descriptions for each and every product on an e-commerce site, Ted?
Could you repeat that?
Should you use custom written meta descriptions for each and every product on an e-commerce site?
Yes. And custom unique titles. Absolutely. The reason being Google will...
That's hard. I've got 100 products.
Well, the reason being is that Google will filter search results that look too similar in the search results. So they're going to get filtered out if they're not unique.
Why do some businesses show up in Google Map listings when they have no reviews and sometimes no website? I added the emphasis on that one. I've been seeing these types of review lists, website list listings significantly outrank other far more worthy listings. Well, my answer on that one to start would be proximity is the number one factor. So if Google knows the business exists and you do a search and it believes it's within that proximity, that's the number one overriding factor. And that's why you can show up without a website or any kind of reviews. I know people debate reviews a lot. Clint, do you like reviews when you're doing a local play?
Well, Clint left his seat, but this
Oh,
is
no.
fascinating. This is fascinating because it creates a weird edge case. So we have on-page SEO, we have off-page SEO, and because of these GMBs without websites, we have non-page SEO.
Oh, for sure. Because I can tell you, like when Rhinoplasty Plano was taken down, I stayed number one in the maps for 2 weeks. It's a completely separate thing. And actually, I think I would have stayed in, except that people were like commenting on it. They're like, how is it still number one in the maps? So that means like the spam team took down my listing organically, and they are not connected at all to the people doing the GMB. Like it's a totally separate thing. But about a year ago, I think I drove around Phoenix and I was doing searches, plumber near me, lawyer near me, those kind of things. And I did them from different points in town to see the results. And that's how I figured out that proximity is the number one factor, because I saw they weren't even edge cases. It happened regularly where it's like, this doesn't even have a website, but it's like just across the road from where I was. So that's how you can see that there's how big of a factor proximity is for the maps.
And, you know, that kind of makes sense if you think about it. Not every Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise is going to have its own website. You know, the corporate headquarters will, but not every store.
Clint, here's one for you. I read that tiered link building isn't really effective anymore. Do you still do tiered link building?
Yeah, stop reading whoever you read that from.
I only do tiered because that's how you do safe link building.
Yeah.
Like if you're not doing tiered link building, you are sending a mess to your website that you stand no chance to clean up if things go bad.
Or you're sending a bunch of, you know, even if you put it on a new site, it's still a brand new page with no link value as far as Google sees, because there's no one linking to that. So it's not sending you the juice that you're looking for. So you've got to do tier link building. If you're doing outreach, for example, then you should be doing press releases to like if Kyle posts a guest post for me, then I'll do a press release saying that's where my guest post is at. And that boosts the power of Kyle's site up. He gets the benefit of that, and I get the benefit of the juice passed through. So you should always be doing tier link building. Yeah, how you do it is really, that's the game now. So
yeah, if you want power or, you know, to mitigate risk, you have to do tiered link building.
Okay, I've got a site-wide nav, menus to the key cornerstone pages of my site as well as the home. Is there a better way to pass internal links without the many thousands of repeating links?
Yes, your top navigation is for human beings, and the menu, the sitemap menu you put in your site-wide footer is for SEO. And that way your primary navigation is simple and for conversion only.
So then how do you get the juice to the pages you need to get them to?
It's in the sitemap menu in the footer. That's just a link menu.
There you go. How do you set up your lead gen based SEO clients? I personally don't do any lead gen. I guess, are they saying like a local site, like a plumber site?
Lead based SEO client. To me, that's like kind of rank and rent for the site. So,
or are they talking about like a plumber or an HVAC?
Yeah, basically that process is I would go out and and create a plumber site, and then rank it, and then reach out to you as the plumber and say, hey, you want to rent it, and then I change the contact information on my ranking site while you're renting it. And
I'm sorry to cut you off. Is there any specific software that you would use when you're building that site?
No, not really. You can do whatever you want, really.
And then
Mass Pages was really fancy for a while, but
okay,
it depends on really how much you want to do into it.
Probably the answer is the least amount possible. Clint, have you done it where you've negotiated with the local plumber to get a commission based on their like a BPL? You know.
Over the top does revenue share stuff. I've not done that with local businesses.
Okay.
Yeah. I know some people that are doing it, but I've not tried it myself.
I can't get past that mental hurdle of negotiating. You know, like, hey, I'm getting all these leads, buddy. You want to buy them? And I can just see a guy going like, no.
Yeah. Well, that
And then-
happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like selling SEO essentially, because you figure they're getting the same phone calls from Yelp, Home Advisor, and all those other people too. So
When I
do it for myself when I'm just dinking around is I'll create the site, get the phone calls, send it to someone, and have that voice whisper. You get this call is provided by Digital Ear Marketing for free. And then approach them later after I've already established that I'm sending them real calls, real people. So
when I sold leads in real estate, I had a system that searched for sale by owner listings, and I'd aggregate those and I'd sell them to real estate agents because most for sale by owners eventually convert. I created the database and segmented it by area code and zip code. And then I'd reach out to 4 or 5 people within each zip code saying, hey, I'm selling exclusive rights to zip codes in my data. So if you buy your zip code, not only do you get the data, but you're locking out your other competitors in that zip code. And that was an excellent way to sell leads.
Were you getting a commission percentage or really like a flat?
No, I own the whole website. I took it all. But when you sell those leads, if you're selling exclusivity to the leads, then that's an extra selling point.
A good guy on this topic would be Alex. Maybe I'll ask him to come on the SEO this week. And he talked at spring training, that conference, about this very topic and how he handles that whole model from finding the client to building the site to selling everything.
Yeah, Alex C. Barr, good guy. Okay, here's one's a little complex. They've got a powerful link, and we'll just assume that that's true. And it's pointing to page A, which is no index. I think because there's some sort of link scheme going on. They now want to 301 that page to the page they want to rank. The question here is, will most of that juice pass from that really powerful link? Or would it be better to get the page to index and then 301? So the question here is, you've got a powerful link going to a page that's no indexed. Is it okay to 301 that, or would it be better to index and then 301?
I would send the link to the no index page and a link from that no index page to where you're sending it. And
so not even do the 301, just link to it.
Yeah, just link to it. Low index, no index does not mean don't crawl. And the tests from the SIA have proven that de-indexed PBNs will rank a website. So why do that extra work if you're allowed to get through it? If you're not allowed to get through it, then I would probably 301 the no index page to the actual money page you want to rank for.
Yeah, I think this is confused because at one point in time, John Mueller made a statement that no index follow meta designations will eventually be treated as no index, no follow by Google. And we don't really know if that statement was true or just BS. And I think to date, there hasn't been any evidence of it being true.
Yeah, I don't even worry about getting my backlinks indexed unless it's like a stupid high quality. If it's a tier 1, I'll worry about getting an index, but like all my other tiers, I just make sure that Google crawls it and knows about it, and it works just fine for me. So I don't even stress over that anymore.
Yeah, there's a related question in chat. A not indexed page can still pass PageRank. You could even delete the page and it'll be a 404 and still be in the link graph.
Which is a good link building trick. If you get a lot of 404, start putting links on your 404 page.
Anybody have any thoughts on the weight on sponsored backlinks, the new Rel sponsored?
I haven't even tested it yet.
I haven't either.
I think honestly, if I was Google, my implementation would be no follow is the hint, which means it gives credit. The sponsored, those are the people that are paying for links to their affiliate stuff. I wouldn't pass credit. And then the user stuff, I just make them weaker versus cutting them off altogether. That's how I would do it if I was an engineer.
Let's get you over there at the Google campus and
I'll
get you signed up.
get a phone call. Who the hell are you talking to?
All right, so this is one I need to break down for a second. Assume we have 21 expired high DA domains on our hands. Okay, we got them. All are indexed and they all have basic WordPress installed. A train leaves Chicago at now. I now set up one of them to be the money site with 1,000 cities targeting service X. So they've set up a mass page on this expired high domain and they're targeting 1,000 cities for a particular service. Okay. I set up the other 20 to have the same 1,000 cities targeting a similar service with closely related content. All 20 of them each link to the 1,000 money pages. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a tier 2 with a bunch of related domains.
That's exactly right. So domain 1 is domain1.com/city service. And then they've got the other 20 that basically are domain 2 city service. It's pretty close, and they link to that corresponding page. Think this will work? Think it won't? Their caveat is that they see big brands doing it all the time, and not sure. Basically, it's like one of those, if they're doing it, can we do it too? Or do you think there's going to be a problem?
The content needs to be sufficiently unique. And I used to do it all the time with product feed generated micro stores that would all link into the products of a primary money store. And I found that it did work. It typically took about 25 of them. And it's largely the tactic I use to beat Amazon product pages, which were generally very sparse on backlinks. So yeah, I think it works in some situations, and it depends how you do it.
Yeah, I guess the big question: do you think it'd be a waste of time?
It can be.
Yeah.
There are products I never won using that method. So if the competition is steep enough, the 25 microsite backlinks might not be enough. But if you're dealing with, 250,000 different products where most of them are rolling zeros on backlinks, you can win in situations like that. But you're not going to get a high volume search term, position 1 with 25 homemade backlinks. So some situations it won't work.
All right, this is the last one from the submitted. Clint, do you guys do AdWords and Facebook ads at Over the Top, or do you do them in Digital Ear?
AdWords.
AdWords?
I'm getting into Facebook for Digital Ear, but AdWords.
Okay. So the first question is, what do you use to track conversions when you're running these types of things?
Set up the goals inside of AdWords. I do all that. I don't do it. I'll set up the ads and stuff, but I got AdWords there that does all that. It's goals and connects them with analytics and sets of the reporting and stuff.
I do the same. I also found a friend of mine actually found a tag manager nerd. So you can listen to click, so you can actually then track more things, which is not easy to do, but it is very beneficial. I'd also recommend something like Lucky Orange to track. You can see the fold where people stop scrolling through a page. You can see what people are clicking on, and then I would also recommend something like CallRail for tracking calls.
Yeah, I use call tracking metrics, and then Hotjar for heat maps, Clicky for heat maps too. Clicky is a standard; it's on all of my sites, but Hotjar, if I really care about it and I want to see specifically and do tests, etc.
Yeah. Commerce tracking and Google Analytics is good for retail.
Yeah.
You do need to have some sort of tracking. I mean, it would be so foolish, and we've all done it, but you start the campaign, you think it's going well, and then the client's watching. the client doesn't think it's going as well. So, and then you have very little to back up your claim.
Yeah. Well, if the client's going broke, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah, you're gone. And it doesn't matter how well you did.
It's also a good way to learn stuff too. So
yeah,
that tracking and setting that up, it seems daunting, but once you start playing with it, it's not as hard until you get, like in an e-com space where I'm sure, I wouldn't even bother looking at something that Ted would do. I'd be like, no, I'm going to go hire a nerd for that. But, if you know how to do that, and it just, you do your work and you see the benefits of your work, it feels good, and then you want to do more. So.
Yeah, here's how tracking is going to pan out for most people. You're going to spend a month to 6 weeks basically implementing it. And then it's going to be not quite dialed in for another month. So by about month 3, you'll really have some decent numbers that you can generally rely on.
Yeah, like everybody sells AdWords as being an instant thing. Oh, you're on page 1 instantly. But it's still a longer play to, as you said, to dial it in to get to the point that it's actually being very effective.
Yeah. So
it's an SEO thing we like to use. Like, for example, we just reviewed one of our clients, and when they started, they were making $60K a month, and now we get them to $150K. But they weren't visualizing how we were doing that with SEO, and having that set up in your tracking helps prove that. So
yeah, and if you're starting with a new client that has no ROI tracking, I'd probably allocate at least 3 months of project time for getting that dialed in.
I've lost clients before when we established that it wasn't effective. Like nothing's happening. So then they hire you. You set up all that tracking. It's like, oh, your campaign's terrible. Like you're basically nobody likes your product. It's not and it's like, well, be seeing.
Which isn't a bad thing, because you put yourself in the position where you're the guys that they probably already knew that, and now you're the guy that helped them see that, right? And at the time they may hate you, but in the long run they may come back and be like, hey, at least he was honest, and now I got this new business, I'm gonna go to him. So
yeah, there's no amount of SEO work that'll ever make the Romco nut clamps a top seller. So just keep that in mind when picking your product.
There's another part to this question. Do you, when you're running ads, do you like to charge upfront, like a management fee? Do you set up like a campaign fee and then a management fee, or do you try to do something commission based?
So let's say they're running $20,000 in ads. They'll, I'll spend up to $20,000 in their account, and then they'll pay me my fee before we do anything. So usually it's 15% or $5,000 if it maxes out.
Okay. Do you sliding scale based on how much they're spending, or do you like have a cap? Like I won't take anything below amount.
Yeah, I don't do like $150 clients, because those are the guys that are build my campaign and then they walk away and leave bad reviews because they screwed it up. But it's we start out at $500. That's my minimum fee. Your spend is we judge that based off what everyone else is spending, your CTR and all that other stuff. So and then we say, all right, you should expect to spend this. Is it within your budget? And they say yep or no, and then we're off to the races from there.
Okay.
Yeah, Jordan asked, are we having a live SEO fight club at NFG Rockstars, which is next week? Well, not on the air, but if you're at NFG Rockstars, this is what we do around the table at the bar, is we talk shop. And so if you want to be at an SEO fight club meeting in person, NFG Rockstars is a great place to do that.
Yeah, remember way back at SMX, we tried to do a live show, and just what a disaster that was.
Yeah. Well, for the hotel internet.
Oh, it's so tragically bad.
We gave it a college try.
Lesson learned. One other thing I'd mention about charging for AdWords and Facebook is that if you can align your interests with the client, I think you can get a better outcome. And what I mean by that is that if you're charging a fee that says, okay, we're going to manage this for $500 or whatever it might be, you're really just punching the clock at the end. You're going to give them $500 worth of work. If you can align your interests so that you are making more if they're making more, and not necessarily commission based, but just in the commission based is one way to do it. But if you can get a hold of the whole budget and allocate it because you're the digital marketer and can say, okay, we're going to spend this on this and this on that, and then qualify that with the leads that you're getting for the client, I think it's a better approach. In the end, you can make a little bit more. And your interest instantly aligned, because now if you're not producing, you're not getting that client. But on the other hand, if you decide to go the management fee, it's a lower stakes for you, because if they're like, I don't really like the performance of this AdWords, you can say, well, if you pay me a little bit more, I'll work a little bit more. But you're really punching a clock at that point. You know, that whatever that fee is turns into a certain amount of hours, typically. So I think there are different ways to play with it, but it's finding the right client that would go along with that idea of, here, just let me give you my money. Which not all clients are down with, especially if you're playing with people that are kind of in that maybe 2,000 and below kind of thing. That's going to be a hard sell. But if you can get above that, a lot of those clients they're more used to those types of things. Are there any other questions I think we've hit the hour. Good Lord.
Let's see. Can websites and menus destroy silos? My understanding is yes, they can.
I've decided to stop worrying about it. Like, you could get really down to it, but I've decided I'm not going to worry about it. I put my links in content at the top, and that's how I worry about it. And then I've just decided to let it slide, and I haven't seen any problem with performance. So I say don't sweat it, personally.
Yeah. And in e-commerce, when I would do the site-wide footer sitemap menus, I'm obliterating silos. I'm making everything one click away from the homepage.
That's a different thing. That's not a typical website. Most people aren't doing that, but cool.
Well, I guess we should probably stop there. If we didn't get to your question, I'm very sorry. We ran out of time. But save them up. We'll do this again probably in 2 weeks after NFG, because we won't have a slide deck prepared. So we'll probably do a round 2, Ask Us Anything. So if we didn't get to your questions,
clip show,
save them. If you're in the IMG group, we sent out the link to the form. If you're not in the IMG group, sign up, and there's a link to a form, which will get your question priority on the next episode. And so just remember, sign up for IMG. Somebody asked, what's Cora built with? It's in Java, so it runs cross-platform. Sign up for IMG, subscribe to SEO this week, and we'll see you at NFG Rockstars if you're going.
Take care, guys.
Bye, everybody.